So if you have one of these Pentair racers in your pool and you have especially if you have a saltwater or pool with flagstone, the sand and salt, it wears down the gears a lot faster than I think any regular pool would. So I have to replace the gear, the drive shaft, and brush every couple years, it seems like, maybe 3. But I always forget how I took this apart and put it back together, so I'm mainly making this video so I can look it up when I need to do it again. But if anybody out there runs into the same problem or has this, hopefully this video will help you out, save you a little heartache. So, things needed: Phillips screwdriver, itty bitty flathead, big flathead, or some sort of pry tool. To take the wheels off, itty bitty screwdriver, pop that in the little crevices to take the little cap off. On this side, itty bitty screwdriver, pop the little hub cap off, just like that. And then it is your big flathead. Once you get those caps and the nuts off the wheel, kind of have to pry it off a little bit. Take your long screwdriver down there and just kind of work it loose. And if you have shop towels handy, if you just pulled this out of the pool, you'll want them handy. This little gear, or whatever it is, brush, it probably wears down. These things wear down, have to be replaced. And I'm sure they were expecting this was probably the thing to get replaced the most. So it's the easiest to replace right on top. But this gear, especially if you have a saltwater pool, I think, wears down a lot, and then it won't turn the wheels. So this has to be replaced. So if you've already taken off the front wheels, no matter, this can be taken off without taking off the front wheels. But just to show you, all it is a little screw right here. That's your Phillips, and just take that out. Comes out pretty easy, but once you get it out, it doesn't exactly just pop out, but you might use your screwdriver to pop this little piece in place. And then just turn the gear and it comes right out. But for the other gear, the drive shaft, we're gonna have to take off this whole bottom. All right, there's 3 screws for the back, one up at the top here, Phillips, one down here, and one over here. But once you get those loose, you turn it over and let these fall out, but then don't take the bottom off. He'll have to flip it over, and we're gonna have to take the back wheels off. And the back wheels are super easy with just a Phillips screw right here. Get that done, and come right off. Now, the whole reason we had to take the back wheels off is because right here, there's a Phillips screw on both sides that has to come out so we can take the top off. Now, one little thing to note, keep the screws separate. You know, you have your 3 from the bottom, you have the 2 from the wheels, and then you have these 2 because they're all separate lengths. So you don't want to get them mixed up. Now, once you have those 2 from the back out, you should be able to pop the front or the top off, just like that. Set that aside. So now that we have the top off, we have access to take these screws off, get to the drive shaft. The new one comes with the bushings and the drive shaft. You can get this on Amazon. There's the info. But you can see the difference. So this is the old one, obviously, it's still in there, and then the new one. So it should be straight across. They get worn down so it won't turn the wheels. And then your eraser just sits there in the bottom of the pool. Now, we'll need to undo these screws so that this will come up and we can get that bushing out. But we are going to have to take the bottom off because it is inhibiting the bushing from popping out of this piece right here. So I'm going to take this bottom off, but there's two sets of wires in the back, so you don't want to pull it out hard, but it'll just, because you don't want to separate those wires. The front will pop off. And there's two wires, so you just want to kind of set it aside and then flip it back over. Once you get these two screws out, this hose is pretty tight. It keeps this from coming up. So we'll have to disconnect it here. And this is just take a flathead, pull. Let me see if I can show you. Right, turn this around. Right here, you have to pull this out, and then it pops right up, just like that. And you kind of get that to the side so that we can get this piece. And this piece can come right off. And there you got your little wheel there. Still some water in there, but that'll come out on that side. Now, I'm gonna flip over to this side. And this gear has to pop out of this little housing. That gear pops out of that little housing. I just used a big screwdriver handle. Gave this gear a little pop from this side and it pushed it right out. So now we can pull this whole gear out, set it aside. And then we're gonna have to just thread the new gear here through here. Take this out, that's one of the old ones. Now I did notice on the old one that these wheels have two different sides. Kind of an open side and then a closed side. And the closed side goes to the outside of the racer. So you wanna do that. But you don't want to put them both on, obviously, first, because you got to thread it through. So you want to thread it through. Now, you'll also take notice of both the old one and the new one. One side is a little longer on the outside till you get to this stop. This side is going to go on the side that has this wheel, because that stop prevents the wheel and you need the space over here for the bushing and everything else. So you want to make sure you fade it in that way. Then you take your new bushings or bearings and this one on the side with the little Ferris wheel thing, whatever it's called, gear wheel. You want to put that one on first because it'll go down into a slot before you pop this one in. So now that that one is in place, you can push this the gear in and then push this bearing in. You may need to use your little pry tool to help assist. Keep working on that. And that didn't take long. You just have to kind of work on jimmying this in there so that it pops in place. And there you go. That is in place, should spin freely. Now it's a question of buttoning it back up. So put this back in, snap this back down. Now, the bolts that went in here were the regular bolts, not screws. So they're little bolts, there's 2 of them. Now we can work on putting our bottom piece back in place. It's proving a little more difficult. We want to make sure you go in from the back end first and then flip it down. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to line up. So just be careful, you don't want to snap any plastic pieces. Okay, I finally got it lined up and in place. One of the things that was causing me a problem is that this plastic piece, there were 2 little prongs in here that weren't matched up. And you kind of have to push it to get past these to get in place. You could, if you wanted to, take off this back plastic piece and maybe even this piece, but then you're just taking off even more pieces. I just worked with it a little bit and was able to get it to snap in place. And now before we screw it down with those 3 screws, we have to put the top back on because that's what the screws go into. So put the top back on and we can screw it with those that we had to do with the wheel off, and then the 3. With a set of 2, and they're shorter for the back ones. And now you can do the 3, 1 at the back and the 2 at the front. Now, you can inspect your old brush and your new brush, and if your old brush isn't worn down too much, you probably don't need to replace it. I've seen mine before, and these little bristles are down to nubs, and you definitely want to replace it then. Now, when you put this in, this one side has the metal doohickey. It's going to go inside the slot in this gear on the inside. And then it just goes down into place. Once you get that lined up, just like that. And then, of course, you've got this piece. It fits right down in the slot. And there you have it. Now it's just a matter of putting the wheels back on. And I'll start with the back wheels because they're the easiest. Pretty easy at this point. So one of these came off with the bearing and the other did not. So if one has the bearing, it's going to go on the side that it came off of. Obviously, see this one, it didn't come off with the bearing. It's still on there. So you just got to make sure they match up. And this is interesting too. One came off with the washer and the other did not. So just want to make sure there's one washer on each screw. And then the front wheels, everything should turn now. See the bushing turn when the wheel turns, and you can see the gear down there turning as well. So, all right, now it's all back together, and everything should turn. And it's ready to go back in the water. And you should notice that it moves a lot better in the pool. I'm gonna try it. I gotta turn it off. And I advise I just tried to do this while the pressure was on because I didn't want to wait for 5 minutes for it to turn on. And I advise it. Much easier. Now it's moving pretty quick.